Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, if only there was one heroic plumber who worked at Nintendo who could stop all these Nintendo leaks. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including the continued leaks of Nintendo game code. And then on Thursday, we are going to be coming up with paper versions of other Nintendo series. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Right before we started talking, I put lotion on my hands. And
Yes.
so like it feels weird, a little bit precarious to be holding the microphone. I guess what I'm saying is I'm a creature of habit, and like this is different from how it normally is when we're recording, so it feels a little weird.
I tell you what, I am bad at applying lotion to my hands because anytime I do it, I'm immediately like, well, now I have to wash it off, which defeats the purpose.
I do it religiously every night before I go to sleep. I moisturize my hands and I moisturize my elbows.
Smart. So smart. I just let my elbows just go to crap. They're not good elbows.
I know it's like one of the reasons I could never pass as a straight person, because somebody would take one look at my elbows and be like, no. Too moisturized.
Too moisturized. I tell you what, talking through the introduction to this episode, I was worried that I messed up the words weak and leak because they are so similar, and I used them both a number of times in the opening. So if there was like a moment where I was sort of like stuttering and like stumbling on my words, that's why. It's because I couldn't tell.
You don't have to
I just
explain yourself. It's fine. You did great. I loved it.
Speaking of things that you don't have to explain to anyone, my copy of Sonic Forces, would you like to borrow it? You can if you so choose. All you got to do is write into us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of this game for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. I send return postage, so it costs you not anything. It costs you $0 in dollars. It costs you $0 in cents. But it could cost you some of your time. So I apologize for that, I guess. Mark, we got an email, a second email from listener Daniel. Daniel, of course, is calling our bluff, and he is on the warpath. And I at one point said that Octopath Traveler is a game that could never be beaten. No one has ever beaten it. And Daniel has asserted someone will beat it, and that someone is me. And he has been sending us spoilers. Mark, I will read you the content of these spoilers when we are not on mic, as to not actually spoil the game for people listening here. But I would like to read this little bit of Daniel's email. He writes, as sterile as these stories are, I'm really enjoying this stretch of the game because, and he's completed 3 of the stories. I'm really enjoying this stretch of the game because A, I have enough skills to execute some very satisfying battle strategies, and B, I think that completing one ending signals the game to really cut loose with the party member interactions. All of a sudden, every inn I go to prompts me to watch pretty consistently charming cutscenes. Which is good to know. I kind of tapped out before getting too many of those like character interactions, and was still like early enough where everyone kind of felt like they were on their own, very separate, siloed off journey. So it's nice to know that at some point the game is like, nah, forget it. They're all friends. They all hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Godspeed, Daniel.
Yeah, Godspeed. He says up next are Ophelia. So he did Therian, who's the thief, and Hannet, who is the Beastmaster. And coming up next are Ophelia, the priestess, and Cyrus, the professor. I believe, Daniel, I thought you said we were going to get the apothecary coming up next. Did we skip him? I like that guy.
Yeah, me too.
Alphen?
Alphen,
maybe?
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, okay. Man, it's been a while since I've played it. So was the guy. I want to say I was the apothecary. I started in like the rock place, like the mountainous region. Does that sound right? Is
Uh,
that true?
I mean, I definitely started as Alphen the apothecary. Um, so it is perhaps a little odd that you and I started with the same character.
Yeah, that
Um,
doesn't sound right. That doesn't feel right.
yeah, it doesn't feel right.
I should go back and listen to our episode on it and figure out what I played.
I know that I rolled an 8-sided die and picked my character randomly that way.
It's been 2 years.
I know, and Daniel is so close to getting it. Godspeed, Daniel. We wish you nothing but the best. Keep sending us those spoilers. We love to be punished by them. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Okay, so I have completed all of the regular puzzles in Picross S, and I have committed myself to understanding Mega Picross. Mark, do you know what Mega Picross is?
No, I've never heard of it.
Mega Picross is a variation on Picross that includes all of like the normal signifiers, where it's like, there are 2 and then 3 and then 4 in this line. You got to figure out like where they all go. But then there will also be numbers that span 2 lines. And so it means that there are that many bricks connected to each other in like a continuous line between these 2 lines.
Oh, interesting.
So like 3 could mean, that it's always in like a little L shape, but you have to figure out where the unused space is. And so it mixes that in with the instructions for the individual rows and columns, and it is brain breaking. I remember trying them before on I believe it was the Pokemon Picross, and just being totally like, going through the tutorial and being like totally like mind stomped by them. But I've like gotten in the groove. I've wrapped my head around it. And so I am very much enjoying Mega Picross. I have joined the League of Insane Individuals who understand Mega Picross. My brain has been altered. I will never be the same. And I'm really enjoying it a lot. So, Picross S has now basically doubled its content for me by offering me these Mega Picross puzzles.
That's awesome. You're like able to like see the code of the Matrix.
That's right.
Like you won't be able to go anywhere without just like being able to do the Mega Picross that's in front of you.
That's right. I'm like Cypher. I don't even see the code anymore. I'm just like blonde, brunette, blonde.
Well, I've still been playing Paper Mario: The Origami King, and like I am liking it so much more this week than I did last week. So I have just finished the blue ribbon, which is the second one.
Oh, okay.
So
I do want to hear more about that, but we got an email about Paper Mario, the Origami King, from Colin. Colin writes in and says, "Dear Patrick and Mark, I recently picked up Paper Mario. Being relatively new to Nintendo and Nintendo games, I haven't played a Paper Mario game before. From this perspective, I have a couple things to say from my first day of the game. Number 1, so far, Sweet Sap Loggins is my favorite Nintendo NPC. I hope you can shed some light on that, Mark. Number 2, I find the battle system is fun so far. I haven't gotten to a boss battle, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Number 3, Olivia is kind of boring, but she can be funny thanks to Paper Mario's iconic charm. Overall, I have enjoyed every second of it. Thanks for keeping me entertained, Colin."
Yeah, thank you, Colin. If anybody else has been playing this game, I would love to hear your feelings on it as well. So Sweet Sap Loggins is one of like, I guess like the first kind of like quests you have to do at the beginning of the game in order to like get into Toad Town. And I guess I don't want to spoil too much, but it ends in like a musical number that is pretty amazing. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely the highlight of that first section. Because I found like Toad Town itself fairly boring, and then the first like, it is remarkable how much my feelings about this game have paralleled my feelings of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze when we played that for the first time.
Just as you predicted.
The the first area is like in my opinion, very like bland, very boring, very just like what you would expect. The music's not that great. Like I was not really feeling it. The second section, just like I think Tropical Freezes, is like autumn themed. The music is way cooler.
Yes.
The like the I just feel like the atmosphere gets better, and so like it starts highlighting like the better parts of the writing. And then so I just finished this part called Shogun Studios, and it's a like a themed theme park that you
I
have
love
to
it.
go visit, and it ends with a visit to the theater there, and each like level in the theater is a different play in a different genre that you have to like take part in. There's like a Shy Guy ballet, there's like a West Side Story type thing.
Yes.
It's like that part was like so much fun, and I've gotten like a better handle on the battles, and um so now I'm like super into it, and I'm excited to see what the next level will bring. It really upped its game for between that first section and the second section.
Man, it is amazing how you saying you go to a ninja themed amusement park and then go into a theater where I'm like, oh, that's all stuff I can't do and all stuff that I want to do. Mark, do you think I should pick this game up?
I think you would like it. I think this is one of those times that I wish that I had bought it physically, so that way I could just like
Sure.
give it to you. So that way you could like try it out without like any risk really. Um, I let me get back to you. Let me get a little further
Okay,
into it
great.
and see if it like continues to build on those highs that I felt in like this last one. But it definitely like am enjoying it way more than I was week one.
That's great. Do you have an estimate of like how many hours you put into it at this point?
Oh, I don't for sure. I actually think it's probably a fair amount, maybe like 5 or
Okay.
6. Um, and yeah, it's like at least so far it's been like you go to an area that's like a prelude, and then you go to second area that's adjacent to it where you like actually get to the ribbon itself. And so I think I'm just entering this like I think even though I have 3 ribbons left, I really have like at least 6 sections of the game to get through.
Sure. Howtobeat.com, how long to beat.com estimates about 30 hours to beat Paper Mario the Origami King. So that sounds like you're right in right you are right where you think you are. All right, great. Well, those are the games that we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So the big release, I think, for us this week happens today, July 28th, and it's the Samurai Showdown Neo Geo collection that's coming to the Switch eShop that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so it's a cool collection of like all of the original Neo Geo arcade Samurai Showdown games, including a previously unreleased version of Samurai Showdown 5. Samurai Showdown 5 Perfect is the like subtitle there. And yeah, it that feels like a perfect little like lump of nostalgia for me. I know a lot of these games have already been re-released through Hamster and the arcade archives, but to have them all kind of bundled together like this, I'll also be interested to see what sort of other features are available. If there's, like the Street Fighter arcade collection that came out maybe last year, maybe even 2 years ago at this point, that had like 16 games on it. It's so many games on that collection. Also just like chock full of, concept art and arcade cabinet art and stuff like that. So yeah, this is one that's been released on other platforms already. And yeah, I'm interested in checking it out.
So other than that, I would say that as far as titles that I'm familiar with or looking forward to, we've hit a little bit of a lull this summer. And but if you listeners are playing any of like the indie games or anything at all that we don't talk about on the show that you're really enjoying, like I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even it doesn't even necessarily have to be like an indie thing, just something that we aren't talking about. Would love to have you write in to Nintendo Cartridge Society at
At
gmail.com.
gmail.com.
And we,
There's
yeah,
also a pretty good Square Enix sale on all platforms right now that ends Sunday, August 2nd. And so here's some of the highlights from the stuff that's on Switch. So Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, everybody is $19.99 versus the $39.99 it usually is.
yeah.
Collection of Mana is also $20 versus 40. The first 3 Dragon Quest games are all on sale. You can get the first one that was on NES for a mere $4.
Yeah, and but these are the like mobile or 16-bit remakes or what they don't look like they did on the NES.
Oh, I can't remember what they might be the mobile remakes.
Yeah, I think that's what they are. The Final Fantasy games that are on there too. 10 or sorry, they're ordered strangely here. 9 9 is 10.50. It's normally like $21. 7 is $8. It's normally double that. 8 remastered is 10, it's usually 20. 10 and 10.2 is 25, it's usually 50. And Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age, is also 25, it's usually 50. So it's all those games that at some point popped on a Nintendo Direct, and we were like, "Oh, cool!" Are available for half the price they would be otherwise. Okay, those are the new releases, and that specifically was a sale that we were talking about. Let's close that out. Now it's time for a regular segment on the show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are going to be discussing the Xbox Series X July presentation. I don't know exactly what this thing was called. We talked about the PlayStation first party presentation from June, but now it is Xbox's turn. Broad strokes, Mark, what'd you think of this thing?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I feel like they showed off some like cool looking games, but they all seem like so far away. It didn't
Yeah. What
like
felt
it
far
didn't.
away about them to you?
Well, just like the Fable teaser and like Everwild. Like we saw a bunch of stuff that like looks nice, and like Everwild I think like looks like just absolutely gorgeous. But other than Halo Infinite, it just didn't feel like there was anything else that was like, wow, like that's like an immediate reason to buy the next generation of Xbox. And like I guess the
Can you
reason
remind
why.
me? Everwild is the new Rare game, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, afterwards in interviews, they were talking about like that they are still, I mean, it seems like it is at least a couple years away because they're talking about like still trying to figure out what like the gameplay concepts are going to be and stuff like that. And I think like not everywhere, but there was a little bit of an air of disappointment after this presentation. And for me, I don't think it's because like what they showed wasn't like cool looking. Like the new game from Obsidian, Avowed, which is kind of looks like Obsidian's take on
Yeah.
Skyrim, is like great. Yeah, absolutely. Like I really enjoyed the Outer Worlds, which was kind of Obsidian being like, hey, we're gonna play in this Fallout space, and so like I would love to see them coming for like Bethesda's other series. Like why Dragon Age seems like that's a long ways off. Like let's
Yeah.
get somebody else playing in this space.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a few other. You mentioned that like Fable obviously is a long way off because it was like just a cinematic trailer. But there, Hellblade 2, which is I really like the first one. Senua's Saga. Wait, is that the name of the new one? In any event, the I think the first one was Senua's Sacrifice, but Hellblade 2 seems like it is super far out, right? Because like they just played the same trailer that they played back when it was revealed at E3 last year, and then with, like some footage of them like location scouting, and it seems like you guys are nowhere near ready, like telling us what this game is actually going to be. It seems like it's going to be so far away.
Well, and that's why I think that the as cool as some of the stuff they showed off was, I feel like it's a little bit disappointing because the last generation, a lot of the narrative for Xbox was like they didn't have those first party exclusives. And I think people were expecting a little bit more of like, what happened with Nintendo after the Wii U, where they were like, the Wii U was a little bit weak, but that's because everybody, like all of Nintendo was focused on coming out on the Switch guns blazing.
Yeah.
And, and so that first year on the Switch was just like incredible. And so for Microsoft to kind of have a soft, well, you get it. You get the idea.
Yes. But before we bounce off of that, I do just want to say that the Tetris Effect Connected and Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, which will be available on Xbox Series X, make it an odd like that. Those are great games. If you didn't have a way to play them already, like you can play them on the Xbox, and that'd be great. We were accompanied today by the EBU Your Radio Orchestra. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Okay, another huge round of Nintendo leaks hit the internet last week. So apparently the origin of these is still like the same like 2015 hack, and that is important to point out. These are all very ill-gotten like revelations.
Does any of this seem strange to you, that the like source code for these games was like that people can't like hack the cartridges and like get them that way? If for whatever reason, it seems strange to me that this isn't a more readily accessible information.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely where we like, I don't understand either. Like, it seems like all of this information would be on the cartridge, and maybe it is in some form, but it's like how you are able to extract it from a cartridge is different from like looking at the actual source code.
Mm-hmm. But so the only reason, I guess, that, because yes, obviously ill-gotten information, but I think the only reason that we want to talk about it is that there's some like evidence of unused sprites or unused characters, things that are just like cute or fun to talk about. If people were turning up harmful information, or information that was revealing something about someone's privacy or putting anyone in danger, we wouldn't want to be talking about it. But if it's cute, if there's an old Yoshi in here, let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like, I think the most interesting thing about all of these is like it gives us a behind the scenes into the development of these games, like Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World, a bunch of Nintendo 64 games, like games that were never released, like beta versions of all this stuff that we have never seen before. And it's just such an interesting glimpse into the process of like the development of these games. Like you mentioned the evolution of Yoshi. Like we saw all these beta Yoshi sprites, and some of them are like wild looking, like they look so much more like a dinosaur. Some people put some gifs together online where it kind of like he morphs from the original beta look, where like he looks more like a velociraptor, like really kind of like spindly, long snout, and like it just morphs more and more into this like more
Like the black or white video.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and there, I forget what game it was for, but there is one of like an old man Yoshi, of like Grandpa Yoshi with like a beard and glasses. So it's a cool look at a lot of that kind of stuff. What are some of your favorite things that you saw from these leaks?
Well, one of the things I thought was interesting was this pitch, and it doesn't seem like it got any further than that, for this Pokemon Online, maybe like MMO type game that was pitched for the PC circa 2004 by the company IQ, which is Nintendo's like Chinese subsidiary, kind of. So before Nintendo with the Switch like really got into the try to get into the Chinese market with Tencent, they had this company called IQ, which was another partnership with a Chinese company. And instead of trying to like bring Nintendo into China, they were like making kind of their own weird hybrid hardware, and then Nintendo would allow them to port their games to it. Like it's and then it's so it's interesting to me that that company was also preparing a pitch for this like online Pokemon potentially like MMO type game, which is something that fans had been speculating or wishing for probably like 20 years at this point.
Yeah, that's all crazy to discover. I like seeing evidence of playable Luigi in Mario 64. That stuff's all cool. The oh yeah, the extra sprites in Star Fox 2, which kind of revealed some like other really weird looking characters. There's one that looks like kind of like a goat, and there's one that is just clearly a human woman. Where it's like we could have had human beings in Star Fox 2. How weird is that?
Yeah, so like you said, like it's really interesting to see all of these like beta assets. Of course there was more like Pokemon beta assets that leaked and all that kind of stuff, because we never really get that sort of like look at the evolution of these games. They always pretty much come out like fully formed. Like, yeah, there's like beta builds that show up at trade shows and stuff that like have slight changes to the UI and all that kind of stuff, but rarely do we see like the radical transformation that these games like go through in the iteration process.
Yeah, I mean, just think of how like gobsmacked you and I were to go back to the Nintendo E3 presentation where they were showing off Twilight Princess and realized that they hadn't reversed the image yet, so Link was still left-handed, and so it was displaying like a different UI for operating the sword and shield with opposite hands. And yeah, like that in and of itself, we're like, whoa, and the game came out like 3 months later. But yeah, just like huge swaths of video game production takes so long and costs so much money, even back in the day, that like if something wasn't going to work, they didn't tell you that they had been working on it, that that they sunk whatever resources into developing it. So a lot of these things, we just don't know about until it leaks.
Yeah, and I feel like, and this is not just Nintendo, I think this is like a lot of video game companies. I actually think they do themselves a disservice by being like, it's just like, no, Yoshi like sprung forth fully formed, and this is what Yoshi like was always imagined to be. Because, like, say what you will about like The Rise of Skywalker or other like Star Wars movies, or really like any media like that. One thing that Star Wars does really well is they have all these books that are like the art of, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you appreciate that like these things didn't just like they weren't just like fully formed. They were iterative, and there were tons of really talented people like working on it with all of these ideas. And I feel like with video games we don't really get a ton of that. We don't get a lot of like the rejected concept art or all that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of like a misleading story for fans, whereas just like you're in a way it puts up this facade of like perfection, and so it gives people like unrealistic expectations for what the creative process is actually like.
I think it also sets up the idea that like just because an idea or a concept was like sketched out, that it was originally in the game, or that we're getting a version of the game that doesn't have that area or whatever,
censored.
Yeah, well, yeah, certainly that. But like, yeah, the game you're getting is the game like any work of art goes through many iterations before it ever gets to a point where it is sold to you. So like any movie, any book, anything, and games are no different. There are going to be huge parts of them that get cut for time, for content, for whatever reason. And just because it was in there at one point doesn't mean that that's part of like the true identity of the thing.
You mentioning the like old man Yoshi asset that exists in one of the leaks actually remind me of something that like I wanted to talk about when we talked about the Origami King, but I forgot. It was gnawing at me like when we were recording, I was like, I knew there was something I needed to apologize for, and that actually reminded me of it. So last week we talked about an interview with VideoGameChronicle.com with like Kensuke Tanabe, the producer of the game, and other people who worked on it. And in it, we pulled like the most like incendiary quote, the one that everybody was talking about, which basically boils down to this idea that Tanabe, in answering a question about Mario's iconic cast of villains, he said something to the effect like, "It's no longer possible to modify Mario characters," right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people seized on that, and we talked about it, where it's just like, oh, is that kind of like, like the first two games in the Paper Mario series have a lot of like Goombas or other characters that are like have really specific personality, like and people point to in the Origami King where it's just like, oh, like thousands of nameless toads. But playing more of the origami, and that is true, but like playing more of the Origami King, it's like I still don't entirely understand what this Tanabe quote is actually saying, because you look at it and it's like there are there's like Shy Guys and Goombas, and they're wearing like ninja costumes, or like it's not like they're just plain normal toads or the Goombas. And so I don't know. It's that quote just is like more and more mysterious to me, because it's like they are not featured in the same way that they were in the first two Paper Mario games, that's for sure. But like they're definitely in the game, like they definitely exist.
Yeah, they're definitely modified in one way or another. I maintain that
Yeah.
he was confused because he was responding to a faulty question, one that assumed that Mario is known for its iconic villains. Outside of Bowser, I don't think they have iconic villains. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up,
Yeah,
because
good.
like as I'm getting further into it, I'm like, this doesn't make any, like, the disconnect is there, because that is clearly, in my experience, like how people are interpreting that is not what my experience with the game
I
is.
think people are interpreting it because that's what they want. That's the controversy that they've already built. Like that is the popular narrative about the Paper Mario games, is that they have lost a step since the Thousand Year Door, because they've stopped having unique Goombas, unique Koopas, whatever, and that has been like the cause of the games becoming less good. When in reality, we've all just aged, right? Like, well, we're no longer 14 as we're playing the original Paper Mario, and that's fine. Games are going to hit differently, and series develop at different paces, and the rest of the industry develops at a different pace. And so, yeah, I think there's probably. But the question was asked in a way that was leading towards a narrative, and then he gave an answer that fed into the same narrative, and I think that's why a lot of people seized on it. It's probably why we talked about it, but it's comforting to hear that you're still finding the uniqueness of modified Goombas and Shy Guys and whatever to be fun and compelling and present in the new Paper Mario game.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so some of the developers behind the legendary Suikoden RPG series have formed a new team called Rabbit and Bear Studios, and they just kickstarted their first project, a spiritual successor to the Suikoden series called, oh man, the first word is one of those like fantasy made up words that I don't know how you're supposed to say this.
My guess is Ayuden.
Ayuden. Okay, yeah.
We went different directions. One Ayuden,
sure,
one Ayuden.
no, whatever. I'm totally on board. Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. So the first thing you'll notice is the art style is very cool. Does like look a little bit like Octopath Traveler, but Octopath Traveler looks awesome, so like that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean one of the things that instead of like the sort of like chunky 16-bit looking sprites that are running around like a 3D polygon environment, they're more like hand-drawn sprites. They look a lot more, like my first reference point was going to be the 32X, but that's an insane thing to make people try to remember. But like it looks like a Neo Geo cabinet, like really really detailed and drawn like that.
Yeah, it looks really good. And they're touting it as like a high quality JRPG from industry veterans. Suikoden is a Konami series, I think, so they're obviously not going to be making another one of these. Um, the story is supposed to be, quote, a deep and engrossing tale of war and betrayal with 100 characters.
Which makes me think that this game is in fact trying to not just one up Square Enix's Octopath Traveler, but 92 up it. So this is Centipath Traveler. I'm calling it now.
Suikoden is not a series I'm familiar with, but it has like so much love from its
Yeah,
fans
I just know it by
that
reputation.
yeah, totally. The Kickstarter like absolutely annihilated its initial $500,000 goal in just a couple hours, and it's already blasted through the $1 million dollar stretch goal as well.
Yeah, at the
And $1 million is
time of this recording, it is at 1.27 million dollars.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're recording on Monday night, so it's been live for like 12 hours or
Yeah,
something
less than
like that.
a day.
So at 1 million, this is where they get to the console stretch goals. So the consoles that they're promising right now to ship it on are the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, and they say whatever Nintendo's successor to the Wii, or sorry, to the Switch will be. Because they're presuming that the game is 2 or 3 years out, and so they in the Kickstarter they have like a whole list of things where it's like, here's mistakes that we've seen other Kickstarters make, and we don't want to make those same mistakes. And one of them is promising to ship it on consoles that, you know, by the time the game comes out, it's not like technologically viable to do that. Like total flashbacks to Mighty Number 9, right?
Yeah.
That game was in development for so long. It was promised on so many different consoles, and you know, like the Vita versions and the 3DS versions like were just never released. And like that's on the one hand is totally fair because like how can you expect to port this game to so many systems? But on the other hand, you promised you would. And so they're saying, hey, we think this game is 3 years out. We think Nintendo's new system might be out by then, and we hope that it'll like be powerful enough to support a kind of easy port for this game. But if it doesn't, we're promising it'll be on some sort of Nintendo hardware. So we would try to figure out a way to get it on Switch.
Yeah, and I mean that is interesting to think that there is at least one, you know, moderate profile game developer that is thinking about Nintendo's next thing. You know, we have heard only that the Switch is in like the middle of its, we are in like the middle stage of its life cycle. But you know, at least these guys are saying like, we might be, you know, nearing the sort of end. And I think, you know, we talked about this when we watched the Wii U E3 presentation. That like, you know, we're seeing support from EA with like sports games and stuff, and being like Nintendo's, you know, finally able to deliver on the same level as everybody else. And that feels like the same narrative happening again with the Switch. But we are on the precipice of Nintendo not being at the same level as everyone else as far as like processing power is concerned. And you know, there will be a while where the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, where their power is novel, but it won't be long, right? It'll be like a year from now. Some of those things will start to feel standard and normal and accepted, and the fact that the Switch won't be able to do the things that those machines can do will like we're gonna start to feel it. We're gonna start to see more games sitting out of Nintendo, and we see that a lot now anyway. But I think we'll see it even more.
So there, we've been kind of like back and forth on whether Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers, would be coming, would be released outside of Japan. This is the kind of like, oh man, why am I blanking on what this genre is called? Something with an M.
Muso,
Yes, yeah, yes,
a
exactly.
Dynasty Warriors esque.
Mm-hmm. Type spin-off for Persona 5 was released in Japan earlier this year, I think, and we haven't really heard that much about from it since. But maybe there's some more hints that it is actually planned for a release in the US at least soon, or I guess maybe not soon. Who knows?
Someday.
So in Koei Tecmo's recent financial report, one of the slides from their presentation lists Persona 5 Scramble among their physical retail products, and the region listed for it as, quote, the West. Of course, there's been like no confirmation outside of that, and there's like absolutely no date associated with it, but it does seem like it is a possibility.
It certainly seems like it's a possibility. It's also a possibility that like whoever prepared that slide, that could be a copy paste error. That could be anything. This would be a game that'd be cool to. That it would be cool to see it come to the West, especially to see a Persona 5 product on Switch, because that's obviously something that people are very much into. But well, I don't know if this is actually evidence that we'll ever see it. But it's a suggestion of it at least.
Nintendo Switch Online subscribers will be able to play Pokken Tournament DX in its entirety for free from this Wednesday, July 29th to Tuesday, August 4th. And then save data that from the free version will carry over to the full version if you end up buying that. For the Japanese promotion, there's a 30% price drop for the full version of the game. It's not clear yet if we'll see the same thing in North America and Europe.
I'm excited about this because Pokken Tournament is always one of those games that like whenever I'm like I should get a new game, like I should get into one of these like back catalog Switch games. Pokken Tournament is always like right up there as like one that I know I'll probably like. And I had played the demo when it was available, right around release time, and kind of got like my fill of the demo. But the demo was pretty restrictive. There were like 3 characters you could play as, and like 3 different support Pokemon. But the full game has so much content in it, and like. I'm saying I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to spend this weekend playing Pokken Tournament DX for free because I can. And yeah, I think this is such a cool thing that Nintendo's done it now with ARMS and Splatoon too, right? Like both of them. One of them for sure.
Yeah,
One of
I
those 2
guess.
for sure.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, we had talked about in the past, like when Nintendo of Japan was doing these like free games for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, to commenting on how like they hadn't done that in the US yet. But I think you're right. I think they did do this with ARMS, and now we're seeing it with Pokken Tournament, and yeah, maybe they did do it with Splatoon too.
Oh no, it
But
was Tennis Aces. It was Mario Tennis Aces.
oh, you're right. You're right. And we kind of let that go by without any fanfare. Like I didn't think about it, maybe because I was wrapped in my own head and being like, oh, like those are games that I've like owned or whatever. But yeah, this is like enormously cool that we're seeing that here as well, where it's just like, yeah, like you paid $20 for this service, like yeah, for like a week basically, just go nuts. You can play this for as much as you want.
Yeah, and it is the full version of it. All characters, all stages, it's all there. So yeah, I'm excited for it. And honestly, if this is a game that I bought, I would probably put a weekend into it and then call it a day. So if anyone wants to hop on and play Pokken Tournament this weekend, I will be out there. You can find our friend codes in the description of every episode. So you can download it too. You can play with us this weekend. It'll be fun. I said us, but I'm not guaranteeing that Mark is going to do it too. I'm going to play for sure.
Yeah, the royal us. How does this work? Do you know? Like, what version of the game are you downloading? Like, what do you download?
You download the game. I mean, it's you go to the page and there is like a it right by like download demo. There's like download free version for this weekend.
Yeah.
And you can do that now. You can download it ahead of time, and it will unlock on the 29th, which is Wednesday, and it's available through the 4th, which is Tuesday. So it's the whole weekend, and then like a little bit more on either side.
Speaking of games that you don't have to pay for, so Rocket League announced that they're going free to play by the end of the summer, and on PC it's becoming a Epic Games Store exclusive. Which makes sense because the developers of Rocket League were purchased by Epic,
right?
Not that long ago. But because the game is going free and people had already paid for it, everybody who did pay for the full game at some point is getting all Rocket League branded DLC released before the game went free to play. estimated is what is that estimated 20XX title that displays the first year you played Rocket League?
So it's EST
Oh, established.
established. Yeah. So
That
it'll
makes so much more sense.
but I mean that it's kind of a cool little thing that like everyone that has been playing the game will get like a little title that says how long basically they've been playing it or when they first accessed it. As to separate the plebeian noobs who would be playing it for the first time while it's free.
200 plus common items upgraded to legacy quality. You get a golden cosmos boost. I have no idea what this is.
I mean, the rest of it is all very specific stuff. If you're interested in it, you can go check it out. But it's basically just it sounds like they are making good by their original fan base and really offering them a lot of extra content for free and unique content and really valuable stuff or valuable in-game stuff if you had purchased it previously. So it seems like the only way possible to do to go from a paid game to a free to play game is to really offer a lot to the people who've been with you since the beginning. And I mean, Rocket League has been good at offering new content continuously forever. So it's cool to see them just sort of offering that up now.
They've also said that they're working on cross-platform progression, which the game last year I think got cross-platform play with some platforms, and this just like continues to build on that and continues to give us hope that this is the way forward for like most big cross-platform games are going to have cross-platform progression and cross-platform play, so no matter where you're playing it, you like have the same experience.
Yeah, hopefully we get there someday.
Remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Disney Epic Mickey, the series of games that first came out for the Wii and later the sequel on other platforms, including the Wii U. Well, Jim Dooley, the composer of the music in both Epic Mickey games, released an unused track on YouTube called Outro Black Pete, and it's a cute, fun little listen.
Yeah, so go look that up. Jim Dooley, Outro Black Pete. Disney Epic Mickey, that should do it. You enter all of that into YouTube. And you know, it's so you and I talked about Epic Mickey when we were talking about the 2010 Nintendo E3 showcase, and it was a series that I never really got into, even though it seems like it should be my jam. It's celebrating Disney, it's celebrating animation. But like, you know, one of the things that I didn't really know to look into was the like musical offerings from it. But this one is pretty cool, pretty compelling, like cute and fun. And so it made me listen to a fair amount of Epic Mickey music this afternoon. And that game's got a good soundtrack.
Yeah, that I you know played the first game when it came out, but haven't really thought about it in years. But yeah, when I was listening to this and it kind of like rolled into more Epic Mickey music on YouTube, I was like, it is really good music.
Mark, are we gonna have to figure out a way to do a retro episode for Disney Epic Mickey?
Ooh, that could be fun. It could be interesting to see that game like removed from like 15 years.
Yeah. Do you have a Wii?
Released from the weight of expectations. No, I don't.
We'll figure it out.
I mean, at some point we'll be able to see each other in real life. So
I don't know if that's true.
Hey, another thing that may not be true: Splatfest were supposed to be over, but can Splatfest really ever die? Not if we keep them alive in our hearts, and if Nintendo keeps recycling the ones that we did in the past.
This is brilliant. I don't know why they didn't just run them all again from the top at the same cadence.
I don't understand why they didn't either, and why like this was not the plan from the get-go, because I am confused a little bit as why these zombie Splatfests keep happening.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if they're seeing like an uptick in people playing Splatoon 2. Like I wonder if we are in that cycle now where the millions of people that bought the Switch for Animal Crossing are like, okay, what else does this thing do? And some of those people are turning to Splatoon.
Yeah, I guess I just would or if it was going to be a thing, why not make like a to do about it and just say like, hey, yeah, we're gonna like relitigate all of the Splatfest. Like if you lost last time, now's your time to like recruit more people. Like I don't know. It just seems weird that they just keep being like Splatfests are over, but also here's like this one that we're going to do again.
Yeah.
And the one this time is Chicken versus Egg, which ran originally in March 2018.
Amazing.
This one will begin on Friday, August 21st, and span that entire weekend. And previously, we saw Ketchup versus Mayo a few weeks ago, and which was the original Splatoon 2 Splatfest.
So we understand what we're talking about here. Last time in 2018, Chicken won 2-1 over Egg. It was the lower popularity, but had higher solo wins and higher team wins, which means more people picked the correct answer, which of course is Egg. Because, Mark, the implied question here is what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? We can agree that that's what the implied question of chicken versus egg. And obviously, if you want to be on the right side of science and therefore the right side of history, the egg comes first. A bird, very much like a chicken, but not yet biologically a chicken, did not have the DNA of a chicken, or the bird that we recognize as chicken, laid an egg. And in that egg was a mutation that created what we now know as chicken. So the chicken egg predates the chicken.
Were we on the right side of history? I was trying to find the show notes from our episode with friend of the show, Casey Gullickson, where we went through all of the Splatfest and definitively determined who the correct winner is, what the correct answer is for each of the Splatfest. And I can't remember what we came down on for chicken versus egg.
Yeah, that's tough. And I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not gonna be able to find that either, especially on the spot. This feels like a rant I've been on before. I'm guessing that we were on the right side of science and on the right side of history, and I'm just asking our audience to do the same. Don't screw it up. Be on Team Egg, and let's win a little bit for Team Egg. Also, this doesn't happen until August 21st, so you got some time to recruit people and educate them about biology.
Yeah, but like also get them to register to vote while you're doing that.
Yeah, oh well, yes, and fill out the census.
Yeah. And finally, this is exciting. Dr. Mario World is adding a new doctor in honor of the series' 30th anniversary, which was yesterday, July 26th. And they're adding 8-bit Dr. Mario, which two things. One, I gotta admit, in the illustration that they provide of him, he looks weird to me. That does not look like Dr. Mario as I remember him. But two, that means that we have to add him to our ranking of the definitive best Dr. Mario doctors.
Right. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we ranked all of the doctors from Dr. Mario World in a previous episode. I encourage you to go back and listen to it. I was just reflecting on our top 3 doctors today, and I'm not going to give them away unless this 8-bit Dr. Mario ends up climbing that high up. But you really do owe it to yourself to go back and listen to us litigate that for like an hour and a half, because it is great content. We were doing good work then, Mark.
Before we get into the ranking, I just want to point out that the doctor will only be available until August 30th. So you have to log in between now and August 30th in order to claim him.
So he's a limited. That's something to keep in mind. He is a limited release item. And maybe you don't recognize him because it's the like when he's looking straight down the barrel of the camera, right? It's not him like from the side holding up a pill. It's a weird stance that like maybe he does after he defeats all the viruses.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, we don't really see 8-bit or really 16-bit Mario for that matter, like straight like looking at you dead, like at the camera.
Yeah, it's like when
so
the Simpsons
maybe I'm
do
just
it.
like Exactly. So maybe I'm just uncomfortable with the realities of Dr. Mario's body, and that's my baggage, not his.
Okay, so the way we approached ranking the doctors in Dr. Mario world was that we assigned them a tier of A through F, basically grades, and then sorted them within those grades. The type of characters that fall in the F category are the fire variants, so like Dr. Fire Mario, Dr. Fire Luigi, Dr. Fire Peach, and then like the Dr. Koopa Troopa, we thought that's an F category. Dr. Kamek because he's a swindler. Those are F category, and the D category is mostly the babies. I feel like 8-bit is better, at least better than D.
Oh yeah, totally. I completely agree.
So where would you put this thing? Because actually, our tiers start to get a little bit integrated here, almost immediately as we get out of D.
Well, okay, so we have Dr. Mario as presented in his like 3D model at number 9.
Yes.
And my initial gut instinct was putting him around that same area. Like, I think I like the idea of 8-bit Dr. Mario more than I like just fully realized Dr. Mario.
Yeah, well, because in truth, part of the reason that fully realized 3D Dr. Mario gets his position there is that he is a legacy character, right? He starts the franchise. But now that we have a separate 8-bit Dr. Mario, like I feel like he may be just straight up dethroned here. Do you?
Oh yeah, maybe it's just like a swap.
Yeah.
And, well, then do we have to figure out where like 3D Dr. Mario goes?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we then have to figure out where 3D Dr. Mario goes. So I think we are now deciding that number 9 in our list is going to be Dr. 8-bit Mario. That means he goes in between Dr. Ludwig and Dr. Roy. But the new question, where does vanilla Dr. Mario go? Mark, do you have any initial thoughts here?
Well, I'm looking at the list, and it's possible he goes fairly low because in my mind, it's like, well, Dr. Luigi's unique, Dr. Toadette's unique, Dr. Yoshi is unique. Like all of these characters are more unique than, so maybe under Dr. Dolphin.
Yes, I would say that the 3D fully realized Dr. Mario goes under Dr. Dolphin and above Dr. Wendy. Those are the new rankings. He is number 15, and we will continue to update this list as we are introduced to new doctors. All right, perfect. Mark, that's going to do it for the news. Let's close this out. And that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you should share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share things in this world. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. You can get a hold of us on all of those platforms. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying eggs over chicken. And thank you for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all?
Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we could talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, and what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
You know, that's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.